listening those 2 days is the power of agility in every sector. I think this and some revenue scaling strategies can take you from 20 million revenues in 3 years. That is what they will discuss our next speakers. So I would like, as you walk out and walk in, to give a big applause to Mr. Aidan Rushby, CEO of Carmoola, Egor Kirin, founder and CEO of Agro.Club, and our moderator, Mr. Apostolos Apostolakis. Hi, nice to meet you. Hi.
You guys. Hi everyone, great to be here. We're very fortunate to have with us Aidan and Egor. You know, it's every entrepreneur and every investor who's backing entrepreneurs is looking for high growth, fast growth companies. And typically there is a rule, I don't know if you've heard it, but ideally you want the best companies, the top performing companies are expected to reach 1 million of revenues in the first year, then scale to 3 million the year after, to 9 million the year after, and then double after that. But this rarely happens. So that's why I'm very happy that we have here with us Aidan and Egor to discuss about what their journey has been, how they achieved it, and maybe share with us some frameworks of how they did it. Maybe share a few things. I can start by sharing about Aidan and Carmoola. Carmoola is helping people in the UK buy a used car, get a loan to buy a used car. So it has really automated the whole process of getting a used car loan. And Agro.Club, Egor is the founder of Agro.Club. Agro.Club is a marketplace connecting farmers, grain farmers, with buyers of grain. And they are also providing financing and quality control. So it's a full, not just a marketplace, but a full transactional marketplace. But with that, maybe I can start with you guys. Maybe you're going to share, Aidan, you're going to go first about your journey and how you came up with the idea. And
yeah, thank you so much for having me here. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, I think some founders have this dying need to solve a problem. For me, I love reading a lot, and this was at the hype of the kind of IPO, SPAC kind of acceleration, probably just over 4 years ago, where there was Kazoo, and I remember reading the IPO prospectus. I love reading annual reports and IPO prospectus, and I remember reading it thinking, what on earth are these guys doing? This business doesn't make much sense. But I did go away and think, wow, all of the profit pools are in the finance part of the car and all the ancillary services. And for me, that kind of really inspired me to go, hang on, is there an opportunity here? One of my friends was also building a buy now, pay later kind of Klarna-style business where I kind of could see that these younger consumers were getting trained around download an app, get a budget, be able to buy. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. Maybe I can take those two things and create something. And yeah, just as well it did. It was it's been a really, really incredible journey. I think our first year or half year of revenue was about $600,000-$700,000. The second year, $2 million, well, over $2 million, and last year was nearly $8 million, and this year will be nearly $20 million. So it's kind of really ramped up pretty quickly, and yeah, absolutely amazing kind of customer feedback straight away.
No, it's an amazing journey, and the reason we got excited and back to in the early days is exactly because we said, okay, what is the experience of the consumer right now? They have to go to a bank, have to go through a cumbersome process, a lot of paper involved, and Carmoola solves all that through an app within a few minutes. This is brilliant. Egor, what was your motivation?
And for me, I spent my whole career in agriculture, so I work for big corporations. For those of you that come from that background, it's very useful. But when you're on the inside, you actually see all the inefficiencies. And for me, it was how disconnected the world is, how many silos, informational silos, technological silos exist, how little access does the actual farmer who produces the grain, who produces the core value, has to the global markets, because there's so many intermediaries and blockers and gatekeepers. And to me, it was like, can we do it better? Can we connect it better? Can we use technology to connect it better, make it more efficient, and make it also more fair? And at the end of the day, to make the full food system much more secure. Because as we see today, it is critical for us.
Yeah, and this is an example of a sector that clearly we all can think needs more digitization, agriculture, so and even space more ripe for disruption. So maybe a question, your growth has also been very fast, your launch to the US, Igor, but in terms of how do you think about the growth path? Did you start growing fast right away, like Aidan alluded to earlier, or it was more of a process where you find specific product market fit before scaling?
Now look, when you start, of course, you have an idea, and you believe in that idea, otherwise you don't start. You don't put everything at risk to start your own company. And you hope for fast growth, and you think, okay, this is product market fit, this is amazing, everybody will love it. But in reality, you start, and maybe not everybody loves it. So it requires a lot of polishing, it requires a lot of trial and error. So for us, we did go through that phase of, I don't know, about 18 months where we were trying different things. The core idea is still there, but I think what determines product market fit is many little things. Coming to customer experience, coming to friction points that you resolve and how you resolve them. What's the user experience? So for us, we took that time, or that's how long it took us to really understand this is how it should be done. And then we put all the fuel behind this and we attract investors. And also, I want to add that in that 18-month period, we also used our own money, which is also my advice, actually, because it disciplines you to be very resourceful. And you have to be, because if you just get a lot of money, and everybody has a different journey, but for us, it worked out well. If you just get a lot of money right away, you feel like, let's do this, let's do that, and you also your culture and how your people think about resources and how you spend them just drastically changes, where you're like, this is all we have, and we just have to find a way. And you will be amazed by how much you can actually do with very little. So don't sit there and wait, I need $10 million. No, you actually need very little to try. So go and try.
This is a fantastic point, and we always discuss about it, but you actually put your money where your mouth goes. And a lot of capital makes you complacent, and we've seen it even with successful companies. Even later stage, when they raise a lot of capital, more than they need, they just become a bit more sloppy. I think the discipline when you are frugal and you have this mentality is very important from the early days.
Yeah, I think like one tip and one thing that we did in the early days on product market fit was a lot of landing page testing. I think in the early days, lots of people think they can't start a business, they haven't got an idea. But one of the very quickest and easiest ways to do this is just to build a landing page, pay for some Google ads or Facebook ads, drive consumers to that concept, and see what the reaction is. And for me, this is exactly the same way we're approaching new markets. It's the same way as I did it in the UK, is you build a landing page with whatever your proposition is. I remember it was terrible after, I think we called it Carfin, which would have been a terrible name. Did a very basic landing page, drove the traffic there, where they can click to say, like, what is the, click to buy. So do like false door testing, and then see what the propensity to purchase is. And then you can even say, like, here's a form if you want to know more information. And then you can ring those customers and just understand what their problem is and what they're trying to solve with that. That's like a very, very easy way
to test.
And I was very confident in the results of that I was very confident as soon as you deliver the product, you're going to have very strong demand before you've even done anything else.
Exactly. And probably that's why you hit the ground running, and right away you knew that the experience offered compared to the status quo was so much better, and that's why you try to scale marketing and grow it much more.
Yeah.
No, this is very interesting. And you alluded a bit on the values. You talked about frugality and the culture. So maybe you want to share a bit about how you think about and whether this is something you thought about early on, and what would be your advice to the aspiring startuppers here about defining the values, the culture, and instilling that to the team?
Yeah, I'm happy to go first. Believe it or not, car finance was not my life dream of building a business. But I was very passionate about helping consumers. Wherever a customer is being fucked over and you can deliver them something that's like much better, cheaper, easier and faster, I'm all in. I absolutely love that challenge, and I love the reaction of the consumer when they're having an amazing experience with your product. So for me, I wanted to work for this. I'm a second-time founder, so my first business and went into a second. I really wanted to align what the business was doing with my own personal values. And so I very early on created our values, which was, and probably the biggest one was about delivering wow. I really wanted to build a company where we had incredible people, where they were prepared to go that extra mile in a product to make it incredibly special for the consumer. And whether this is through the customer support or whether this is in the design of the product, what works incredibly well in an early stage company, if you have people that can take stuff to 100%, and then you're working together to take them to 110 and really kind of go above and beyond. So we were very value driven, and that's probably the bigger one, but we had things like grit and hard work is how you achieve things, always be automating. I think we're incredibly fast growing, but we only had about 30 people in the company, running over like 100 million in assets. So heavy automated platform. Love to grow is a big one for us. Like we love developing and learning. And more recently, we actually added one only as we've kind of got bigger, which is spend it like it's your own. In the early days, especially as a second-time founder, you're very careful with the money. But it's important that you distill that and build that in as a way of kind of giving people more control and ownership of the business.
No, that's amazing. And the takeaway is that you should think about those values and early on instill them in the team. And by the way, you should check the customer reviews for Carmoola on Trustpilot. It's like amazing. I mean, you wouldn't expect people to talk about car finance in such a way. Yeah. Igor, what was
No, and look, whether you formalize the values or not, if you're a founder, your personal values become your company values. Because how you operate, how you treat different situations, hard situations, good situations, how you treat people, how you treat your customers. Even if you don't put it on a slide, it immediately becomes your company values, because people see how you act. And for us, that's basically how, I mean, we defined them pretty early on, because again, I come from the corporate, so I'm used to that type of structure and formalization. But for us, and for me personally, it was very important, the basics. Do what you say, follow through. Because even in my corporate years, it's so basic. Our parents, I'm sure, have taught us that. But very few people do it, actually. It's so amazing. It still amazes me. Very few people do it. And also in our space, in agriculture, trust is a big thing. And depending on the geography, sometimes there is lack of trust. So by instilling that very simple value, you actually can win customers and you can be different than others. So that's one. And secondly, I mean, there's many, but the second most important is it will be a very hard journey. If you guys look at some success stories, like, oh, it was such a great idea, and then boom, it just happened. I mean, you choose your own, OpenAI, Facebook, whatever is your favorite. No, everybody's journey is hard. Everybody, nobody gets it easy, trust me. And whether you get there or not, it's not really determined by external factors, because again, everybody will have issues. It's determined by the mentality of yourself as a leader, of your team. So instilling that mentality that, guys, we have a set of conditions. Now we choose, are we going to win in these conditions or are we going to lose? And look, if you lose, you will have all the great arguments why you lost. Oh, market was bad, or geopolitics, this, that. And people will listen to, oh yeah, poor guy, I mean, it was so bad for you. Yes, we understand. But trust me, in the same condition, there will be somebody who will make it work. And it's basically up to you. You choose, do you want to be the first guy or the second guy or girl? And so instilling that mentality is like, guys, we will find a way. Now, we have to do something, we have to be smart, we have to be creative. You cannot just sit there and say, we'll find a way. But it is critical, because you will definitely face those situations, and probably many times.
Yeah. I think you both shared a very interesting point about accountability, responsibility, and pushing forward. I was just wondering, there is also another element, which is the sense of urgency that founders naturally have because they want to do something and they constantly think about the company. And sometimes, naturally, people in the environment, I mean, in the company, do not share this sense of urgency. How have you seen that, and how have you tried to instill that sense of urgency?
I think any entrepreneur, it's a very deep and you can go into the psychology of it quite a lot. But most of them are very impatient and really want to get shit done. And so in some ways that is a blessing when you're building a business, but it also can have interesting challenges in other parts of your life. And I think, I think removing the ceilings that you believe that you have that are saying you can't do this, you can't do that. I think if you're able to remove that, I think you can achieve anything. And I think it's just a question about going after it and actually taking small everyday steps to get there, and just breaking the task down and just attacking it consistently over a long period of time, and then you can achieve a huge amount.
And in terms of how important is communication to the team about the common goals and the mission in order to align them and have them share this sense of urgency and mission?
Yeah, we're very open as a company. Then in Slack we have no private channels. Everything is public. Even the CEO office is public. So I try and operate a world where you're very transparent with the team. We only employ very senior and relatively experienced people. And if you can't be open with them, what are you doing? They're taking risks to join the team. A lot of companies aren't very transparent, or they're trying to hide things. I think you've got to be super transparent. Most people today will respect that, and they can make a decision. Are they in or are they out? If they're in, they're 100% in, and your chance of success is so much greater. You don't really want people that are frightened that you're going to run out of money in the early days. You want people that are old enough, mature enough, and can kind of get their head into it and get stuck in and give it a go.
Makes sense.
Yeah. No. Yeah, patience is also not my strength, for sure. And I don't think it should be for any founder. Yeah, I mean, absolutely have to be transparent. You have to, as much as possible, to instill that sense of urgency to others, because look, you're a founder, you have the biggest stake, you probably risk the most. Your team is, you can have co-founders, of course, and you can have incentives for them long term, but still, they're not in the same boat as you. So naturally, they would not be as driven and as impatient as you are. And communication helps, of course, trying to explain why you're actually so impatient. You do have to control yourself, because I know myself, I want everything today, and at some point it can be very destructive and distractive for people, because sometimes it just, it takes time to get things done. And you can rush it, but you actually take the business backwards by constantly rushing or constantly changing. So sometimes you need to give it time. But I do believe, as much as we've hired and fired, you need also a little bit of luck to find the people who will be, wired as you are, even if they're not founders. So I do believe luck is an important aspect still in everything that we do. But if you do find, you actually don't need too many. 2-3 people that will be able to drive just like you are, you'll be in a good spot. Because you don't need everybody like this. Because in some jobs, I don't know, just to pick, for example, an accounting, you just need somebody very disciplined and doing things right and not making mistakes. You don't need, a person running around and trying different things. But if you have 2-3 people that are as driven as you and as maybe impatient and as hungry, you'll be in a good spot.
And you brought a very good point, which is about hiring. So it all starts with selection. I'm sure you're looking for people who are very driven, very responsible. And this is important because, of course, it's difficult to let go of people and have misalignment.
Yeah, hiring, we were talking in the backstage. People is what makes, not idea, not money. People is what makes great companies, and also people is what kills great companies, both ways. And so again, you choose which one you want, because your idea is going to change. There's a gazillion of ideas. Ideas actually don't matter. If you think, I need this great idea, idea is actually the easiest part. money, well, money you can spend very quickly. But one thing is certain is that you will face issues. And people and the quality of people is what will determine whether you will find solutions to those issues or whether you will fail. And as many people as we hired, and even from my corporate days where things are much more structured, today, to be honest, and I will admit to it, like resumes, and now with AI and everything, you can write any resume you want. I actually don't care that much about them. Interviews, I have to admit, as much as I interview, at the end of the day, I still made mistakes when the interview was amazing. I try to get to the actual work as soon as possible, to see person in action. And if it doesn't work, you have to fix it fast. Because you're also not going to change a person, to start acting completely different. So get person to do something as fast as possible. Can be trial, can be task, whatever. And then if it doesn't work, just don't go there.
I think the challenge is in the early days, especially if you're a relatively new or first-time founder, it's very hard to know what good looks like. And I think as you become more and more experienced, and the better and better people you go on that journey on, you kind of have this ever-increasing bar of what a great person is to working in the team. And I think in the early days, and my advice to anybody thinking of starting a business, go and work somewhere where there are a lot of great people. And that will set your bar extremely high. It's no surprise that you get amazing spin-outs out of companies like Revolut and all the rest of it. It's because the talent pool is so high, because they've been so rigorous about the people they've been hiring, that the quality and your expectation of quality is just so much higher from day one. So I think that that's one tip. My other kind of thing that I do a lot of visualization and trying to think about things quite deeply. My best tip is, like, if you really want to know what an A player is, and really think about this, is that when you close your eyes and you think, God, if this person comes into the office tomorrow and says they're leaving, how are you going to react? Are you going to go, oh, this will be okay? They're probably a C player. If you go, oh, this is a little bit painful, but we'll find somebody, there may be a B player. If you're going, oh shit, this is a major fuck up, you basically want to, that probably tells you they're probably an A player. And so I go through this process quite regularly in my own visualization with my team. And, we'll have I don't want to say culling, but it is a bit of a culling. And where every quarter I'm saying, like, who is not up there. So that's like another, like, really wish somebody had told me that earlier. And then the last bit is recruitment process is, like, very, very important. I never ever really kind of got this when I was an early entrepreneur, and I never really understood why. But as you go on, you realize that just running a very rigorous process. So, like, we build a scorecard through every single step of the process. We'll have a first round interview. I will then interview them for a second video call. We'll then do another face-to-face where one or two members of the team will score them on different dimensions, including our values as part of that. And then the most valuable, and what I highly recommend anyone, is actually do a case study with them. So we've developed across the company different case studies for different areas of the business. So if it's credit risk or if it's engineering, they will sit there and actually work through a case study with the line manager, with an observation from myself or somebody else in the team. And you're working through the problems together. And I cannot tell you how valuable that is, because you get to see them, how they really react to the problems. Are they persistent with the problem? Do they give up easily? Will they be persistent about working it through? What is their logical thought process as they're processing the questions and trying to work it out? For me, like, those three things, I just wish that somebody had told me that early in my journey.
Oh, these are great points. And I want to repeat this point about not knowing what great is. And that's why founders typically at every stage of the startup, as they grow, they understand that some people may have reached their limit, and maybe they're looking for more senior people who can contribute more to the next stage of the company. And the other point, which is interesting, one of the values always be automating, also makes the company more efficient, reduces the need for even more people, so that the company can be more reliant on processes and digitized processes, yes. One question that I had around how your role has evolved, because it's different when you're starting, everything is founder-led, sales, product, etc. But as you're growing the team to 20, 30, 50, 100 people, how has your role evolved, and how do you manage between having the need to go deep in the product problems or delegate to people you trust? Yeah. Igor, what's your?
Yeah, I mean, at peak we had like 250 people and spread around 10 geographies. And you're right, I mean, in the beginning you do everything, right? Because it's just you and maybe a couple more people. And then for me, like phase 2 was more building the structure, building the structure and business processes to run that structure, and obviously hiring and fundraising. That's like phase 2. And then when you have the kind of house built, where I see myself now more and more is I actually now go deeper in the details than in phase 2, because phase 2 you just build in the big blocks. Now I'm actually going in and saying, okay, what should we polish? What should we streamline? What is necessary? What is not necessary? So personally now I actually go very deep. I don't want to call it micromanagement, but I don't hesitate to go as deep as I want, because we're already a big organization and a big company, and we need to ensure that as we go forward, we don't only grow in size, but we also grow in efficiency. And of course, you still the strategy, the vision, but probably by now we already know what we're doing and where we want to go. There's not going to be like drastic changes. So it's more around polishing and making sure things are working as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I think obviously in the early days, the most fun. I think for any founder, they love the early, scrappy, get shit done, make everything happen. It's exciting because you're discovering early customers, and it's definitely, I look back at that and think that is the most fun. And then as the company grows, we're not huge. Like, yes, we're big in terms of customers and revenue, but we're very reluctant to hire people. And so we only have about 45 people in the company now. My strategy there has just been to hire really incredible people and then just automate the whole value chain, so we don't have to have that many people, and then just have A players in key areas. But now I think that over time you just become more strategic, and it's about putting your time into the key leverage points, and really going deep on those. And I think like every founder is different. Everyone has a different style. I definitely put myself more in the Richard Branson kind of entrepreneur than I would like an Elon Musk kind of entrepreneur. And so I like the strategy. I love the product. I love the brand and marketing. That's where my passion is. So I try and spend more and more time there. And then I've just hired incredible people to run debt funding, credit risk, finance, and those other key areas. So yes, I'm obviously overseeing them. If I could get rid of that I definitely would. And if I could spend all my time building product and brand and marketing and heavily focused on the consumer. But I think now, and one thing that is consistent, I think as the CEO, you have to be the chief customer driver. You have to be the biggest champion of what the customer wants and be absolutely fanatical about that. Nothing else really matters, really, apart from what the customer ultimately is getting. And if you truly believe that, and everything that you're doing is about delivering more and more value to them, and you get that value exchange right, you can build an incredible business
Makes sense.
that you can take everywhere, especially in the world of massive technology disruption. Ultimately it all comes down to the customer, how you make them feel, how you deliver value to them, and being really fanatical about that.
Yeah, I mean, customer is why companies exist. Customer obsession is what keeps companies going. We're about to end. I don't know if we would like to open it. Maybe one question, if somebody has a pressing question that they would like to ask. If not, I can just... okay, you are. Please.
Since you mentioned recruiting, how do you solve...
Thank you. Since you mentioned recruiting is so important and how you didn't realize it early on, how do you solve that problem today?
Yeah, so we obviously try and open the top of the funnel up as much as possible to as many people to get through. I think over time we need to build a strategy that Carmoola becomes the place that you want. If you're a credit expert at one of the top universities, you see Carmoola in the same light as you may see Capital One or Goldman Sachs or somewhere like that. And so like, there's this building and driving the top of the funnel. And then it's about process. And we basically have built a scorecard that we use throughout the process where every single sector we're ranking the customer based on things like values, critical thinking, and various different verticals. One of our values is don't be a dickhead. So we're checking that as we're going through. And then, you know, like we go through that process. We get them to speak to different people at different stages. So you get different perspectives and see how they interact with, you know, one of our co-founders, Amy, versus me. You then, you know, and then really it's about the case study. And the person that is leading the function will run the case study, and then you're scoring them against how they behave. And then the person observing enables you to see what are the other more softer behaviors as you're kind of critically viewing it.
Cool. I think we run over time.
This girl wants to ask. Go on, go for it. Yeah, go.
Okay, quick.
I'm Alex from Prosperity. We scale up ourselves. So, in a nutshell, what keeps you up at night, guys? I mean, currently running your companies. I know it's a bit of a cheesy question, but I just wanted to check.
So, what is the challenge now?
Which are the challenges you are facing currently? Yeah.
I mean, for us, as we scale, and we alluded to it, it's always the people and how can we, goes back to recruitment, hire the best people and attract the best people, because ultimately, no matter how great idea or technology you have, you still need people to deploy it. But at different phases, different things keep you at night. It can be money, it can be personal sacrifice, it can be product market fit. But today for us, it's the people.
Yeah.
For us, it's probably fraud. I think, especially in the changing world, when you're lending lots and lots of, millions a day now, you have to be very, very concerned about that. If you're not, you're in a probably dangerous place if you're lending money.
Yeah. Makes sense. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you all for being here.